And mental health advocate Ruby Wax is in town this week with a one-woman show called Sane New World. It's based on her book of the same title and uses humor to explore the way our mind can sabotage our sanity. Ruby has struggled with depression and holds a degree in cognitive therapy from Oxford University. WGBH News arts editor Jared Bowen sat down with her this week and asked how she got started down this path.
A mental health charity said, could they use my photo for one of their little handouts? But they put giant posters of me all over the UK saying 1 in 4 people have mental illness, 1 in 5 people have dandruff, I have both. So I wrote a show to make that look like it was my publicity poster. That was 7 years ago. Then I thought, I've got to learn about not the 1 in 4, but the 4 in 4, because we seem to be in a culture where it's all about how busy you are. God forbid, spare time, it's like saying, do you have spare oxygen? So I went to Oxford to study the mind, because everything emanates from this. And part of it was about mindfulness, because that is the way, one of the ways to regulate your own chemicals, pull down the adrenaline, because everything out there is so tempting. There's always something else to eat, drive, snort, we want so much. So we have to learn how to cool our own engines, and so I went to Oxford, like everybody would.
Yeah, of course. I mean, how did you get the conviction to do that? I mean, because you have, and you talk about this in the book, you have figured out how to manage your brain and manage yourself.
Well, I did a lot of research, because my life was about list making. I'd get up in the morning, you probably do too, but not really important things like buy light bulb, find turtle, worry about a bowl of cooked chicken, endless. And I thought, this can't go on. I can't live a life making a list or ruminating. Why didn't he call me? He didn't call me because it's endless. So that means you miss you look in a mirror and think, did I just have a life?
You talk about we're not equipped to live in today's society. I think, as you put it, we've gone from scarcity to this, over-sensorized environment where we've got things coming at us all the time. We're making lists, we're talking on the phone, we're worrying, as you do, about how many people we have following us on Twitter.
Yeah, in the beginning I had a reason, but then it turns into an addiction, and now it's how many people know I exist? I don't even know these people, and I'm even answering spam. So we have to learn to not project our conflicts onto the world, and to understand this little baby is running us. And once you can, make an assessment that your agitation might be coming from within, then you won't keep saying, well, it's you that made me feel that way. So that's mindfulness. And I think it's important we understand how the machine works a little bit, because it is running the whole show.
And well, speaking of shows, now you're doing this show, but you say you're not an evangelist. You don't want to be the poster person for depression, and that a lot of people gravitate to you for that because of your previous book and your previous disclosures. But the second half of your show is a question and answer.
The second half, because I've done sort of a mental striptease for them, people, and it's a big theaters I've been playing, start to stand up, because though the show is not about mental illness, but we have no other place to talk about it. So I had some guy, in Newcastle, real macho, stand up in the, up there on the second balcony saying, I've had depression and I've been on antidepressants for 20 years. I never told my wife. And she's sitting next to him. And then somebody down in the stalls will shout up going, do you think you passed it to your daughter? Somebody else once said, because we have no other place to talk. So I turned the theater in the UK on my night off into a walk-in center. And I brought in neuroscientists and doctors and teams of therapists, and people could come in off the street to get help. People say remarkable things, and then they help each other. This isn't this show, I say it's for the 4 in 4, not the 1 in 4 with the mental illness. But people still want to talk. They want to know, what do you mean your brain changes all the time? There's things that they understand in science that sadly don't get to the public. The public really read about books, how the ancient Babylonians passed down their wisdom. You know which books? Self-help?
Yes.
That's why there's so many Babylonians around, because they did so well. Yeah. So I think a science book, but twisted with comedy, is really the way to go, because I think that's what comedians should do, is give you information so you go, I didn't know that, But if you make them laugh, that's really good foreplay.
Okay, well, I have a question about this, and I know how you feel about it, so I'm asking you a question where I know the answer is going to be. But after Robin Williams died,
oh my God,
everybody started talking about, well, comics have a dark side. This is inherent in comedy. It seems that it's across the board that all comics have a dark side, and that's where the comedy comes from.
Okay.
Is there any truth to that?
Can we just, let's pull the brakes. Okay, it's 1 in 4 people all over the world. Somebody in Somalia, somebody in Mumbai. Not 1 in 4 people are that funny, A. And B, your insides don't know what your outside does for a living. It's, to me, like saying that all weather girls have shingles. Comedians may be narcissists, probably, it comes with the job description, or neurotics. But mental illness is just like somebody getting Alzheimer's, and you wouldn't say to them, come on, you can remember where the keys are. It's so salacious for hot gossip, you know. Let's talk about Robin Williams. We don't know his story. He had another illness. We don't know what went on. It's also really bad for the stigma because now somebody with bipolar, there is medication. You don't necessarily have to, do that. We don't know his story. Don't blame the comedians because the people that are so ashamed of having depression are now even more ashamed, thinking, oh, you have to be famous to get this disease. So this is exasperating the disaster.